We're going to get started because we promised to begin and end on time. So welcome to our 6th annual Breakfast of Hope for Pathway to Progress Nicaragua. I think I know many of you in the room, but for those that don't know me, my name is Kate Dunsworth-Casey, and I am involved in Pathway to Progress Nicaragua, have been since the beginning, and I'm also very proud to say that I'm Barbara and Edward Dunsworth's daughter, who, if you don't know them yet, you'll know who they are by the end of the morning. I'm so thrilled that you have decided to join us this morning. We have an incredible program for you this morning. Over these past few weeks, it's certainly been an interesting time to be in North America, hasn't it? I started to think about what I wanted to say this morning in the weeks leading up to this event, and the same thought kept coming into my mind, and that's that many of us feel so hopeless in this world today. It feels like there's more bad news than good news filling our inboxes, the headlines in our newspapers, the news stories that fill our evening news. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for some good news. We need more good in this world. And so I am very excited that you're here with me this morning for us to share the good news of the incredible program that we have in Nicaragua. It's a program that's changing lives for the better, and not just the lives of the children and their families in the Pathway program, but the lives of the hundreds of people that have decided to get involved. You're going to hear from several people this morning that are going to share stories of their involvement in the program and how it's changed their lives. This is the 6th year that I've had the privilege and the responsibility of planning this breakfast event. And in many ways, it's become like a well-oiled machine. But each year that I do this, I find it nourishes my soul and it fills my heart. As I watch the video of the children, I comb through the pictures, preparing for the slideshow and to make the printed materials for your tables. And I'm reminded of why I do this. Of course, my parents are one of the reasons. But I wasn't on the journey with them when they first left Canada. So I've always looked for ways that I could get involved. And my involvement in Pathway to Progress has become so much more than my parents' involvement. I've been to Nicaragua. I've taken my husband, my children there. I've met the families, and many of the children in the program have become like family to us. We've celebrated their successes, and we're frustrated by their challenges. I'm reminded, though, that all the parents of the children in the program are just like me and like all you parents in the room. They have hopes and dreams for their children, and they'll do anything to help their children realize those dreams. They want a bright and hopeful future for their children, and children deserve that. So I'm here this morning for the children that are not as privileged and as blessed as I have been in my life. And to be perfectly honest, I'm also here for me. It fills me up to know that I'm doing something to help bring hope to the lives of other people. In a world that sometimes feels hopeless, I'm reminded that we have the ability to bring hope and to give hope to others. And I hope that this morning you'll want to join us in making a difference in the lives of so many deserving children. So if you join me, bow your heads with me. Let us pray silently together, each one of us, according to our individual beliefs. Let us offer thanks for our food and the blessings of fellowship around us. Let us be a source of hope for those in need and contentment for those who are lonely. Let us pause for a moment to appreciate the opportunity to come together this morning and to thank those whose efforts have made this event possible. Let the feelings of love and kindness always be reflected in our actions. So please enjoy your breakfast and enjoy a slideshow presentation that is coming up of the children in the program, and you might recognize some faces on the screen as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Please continue eating and having your coffee, but we'll get the rest of the program underway. My name's Trudy Camo, and I know an awful lot of you, and this is absolutely wonderful to be here this morning. I'm the president of Pathway to Progress Nicaragua, and it is truly an honor to be leading this organization with what we are doing and providing hope for so many children in Managua. As Kate said, this is our 6th annual Breakfast of Hope. A big word of welcome to all of you, but especially to Scarlett Omana Perez. She has come here from Managua. And you'll be hearing from her in a few minutes. And I hope she's not terribly disappointed that it doesn't look like she'll see snow this week. Well, most of us are real happy about that. I wish to introduce our current board of directors. Most of them are here this morning. If you would just wave from wherever you are. Diana Kozla, Susan Grant, Peggy Yap, Stanko Vaci, and Marcia Brennan. Jolene Mahody sent regrets that work commitments have kept her out of town today. But my heartfelt thanks to you, the board, for all that you have done to make this organization possible. And we have some ex-board members here as well. And the board is really kind of the glue that keeps all this working. Also, a huge big thank you to Kate Casey for once again organizing this event. She does an incredible job. Thank you, Kate. Some of you, but not all of you, perhaps know this story. About 20 years ago, Haligonians Ed and Barbara Dunsworth felt a real call for something more meaningful in their lives, and they have a true sense of adventure. Ed went on a trip to Nicaragua with Habitat for Humanity in 1997, and he was profoundly moved by the poverty that he saw, and he had just not comprehended that that was a part of the world. He was so moved to do that he felt called to do something with his life that would help people living in poverty. And shortly after that, he took Barbara back to Nicaragua so she could see what he was talking about. A few months later, they radically changed their lives. They moved to Belize in Central America with Habitat for Humanity at that time, and they've been in Central or South America ever since. 11 years ago, they moved to Nicaragua as program directors for Hand in Hand Ministries, which is a U.S. not-for-profit organization dedicated to assisting those living in poverty. Once they were in Managua, they realized that the education system there was way below what any of us in North America would deem acceptable. Only 50% of the children in public school go past grade 6. So they knew in order to start to break the cycle of poverty, the root was education. So they developed and have nurtured the Pathway program over these past 11 years. They began with 3 children, and they've grown the program to be 89 students in it right now. Barbara's going to tell you more about that. What is really exciting, though, is that one of those first students, Mauro Lopez, will graduate from high school in December. Their academic year runs January to December. And along with 6 other students who joined the program at various grades, they will graduate. Here are the amazing stories. Mauro will go to the United States in January on a 6-month student visa to attend the last 6 months of high school at an American high school. And he will really refine his English language skills, which are pretty good now, but he will be really fluent. Rosa Maria plans to study industrial engineering. Catherine plans to study psychology with the goal of going to medical school. Camilla plans to study child psychology. Sue plans to study business. Carla also plans to study science with the hopes of medical school. And Hillary plans to study accounting. We call this progress, and we also call it success. After the Pathway program was established in Managua, a few of us here in Canada wanted to find a way to support Ed and Barbara's work. So Pathway to Progress Nicaragua was incorporated and became a Canadian registered charity in December 2009 with the purpose of raising funds for the scholarship program. Over the past 6 years, our budget has grown to a level of support that we now have 44 of the students directly sponsored through the Pathway program, and many of you here are here today, and I thank you. This past fiscal year, the amount sent to the Pathway program in Managua was close to $120,000. Our charity is most fortunate to be run by dedicated volunteers, and that has meant that we've been able to keep our admin costs really low, and approximately 95% of our donations go directly to the program. Pathway to Progress Nicaragua also facilitates the opportunity for service trips, and that enables groups to go down to Managua, work alongside a family in need of decent shelter. And in a few minutes, Patricia's going to tell you about her experience there last June. To all of you who have given us donations financially or in kind, or who have worked very hard who have worked hand in hand with a family in Managua, I extend my heartfelt thanks. My husband, Michelle, and I have been very fortunate to have had 3 visits to Managua over the past few years, and it has truly been a joy to meet and interact with the students. I was trying to remember how long ago it would have been when I met Scarlett, and it's probably about 8 years. And so we've watched them grow, and they are bright, and they're funny, and they're very loving. The video up next will give you a glimpse into the program and the lives of the students in Managua. This was put together by our partner, Hand in Hand Ministries, and this will really show you a little bit of what it's like there. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us.
We're going to play the video, but I just thought it was worth noting that the woman that you're going to see in this video is Scarlett's mom, okay? So keep that in mind as you're watching it. Okay.
They wanted to be teachers, doctors, professors. And I thought, wow, what a difference this children's center is making. It has given these kids hope that they can go beyond circumstances that they're in. They come from such poverty, and this center in Managua has changed their future.
Las personas que me han apoyado durante mi vida y mi educación, primeramente el Ministerio Mano a Mano siempre me ha estado apoyando económicamente.
Our struggle is to walk with these families and to accompany them in their daily path.
Mi nombre es Erika Alexander Blas, tengo 12 años y tengo 6 años en el programa esta.
Me ha ayudado en construir mi casa, en la salud de mi familia y en la salud de todos nosotros que estamos en el programa.
For me, Ministerio Mano a Mano has helped me a lot because they have given me the opportunity that study in a better school.
We were able to go visit some of the children's homes. We had 3 visits that we went to make. And I had an idea of what, I knew that they came from very poor backgrounds. But when we went to their homes, I had no idea. They're such poverty, and the living conditions are what we would think would be unbearable and unlivable. It's going to be hard to leave. And I know that I'll be back.
One thing that I'm very proud of in our program is that our program is a partnership between the families and the children that we work with and us at Hand in Hand.
Entonces, mano a mano es muy importante para nosotros porque ellos pagan el colegio, pagan recorrido, pagan uniforme, pagan merienda, entonces pagan el 98% en el estudio de nuestros hijos. Entonces, mano a mano es quien invierte en nuestros hijos. Entonces, nosotros lo que tenemos es un compromiso de no fallar a mano, de dar buenas cuentas a mano, como padre. Eso.
Importante para mí por lo que puedo aprender más a partir de que no tengo muchos recursos económicos. Y me afectaría, ya que si no estuviera en el programa, estuviera en un colegio público, mientras como estoy aquí, estoy en un colegio privado.
First, I have to finish my high school, then I have to go to the university and then get a job.
Mi sueño principal desde pequeña es llegar a ser una excelente embajadora, representar a Nicaragua. Siempre he pensado y por eso tomé la decisión de estudiar diplomacia y ciencias políticas. Otro de mis sueños que también pienso cumplir es estudiar derecho y llegar a ser una excelente abogada.
Mi sueño es ser un ingeniero civil y lo voy a lograr siendo un buen alumno y siguiendo estudiando con todo mi esfuerzo.
El futuro que yo quiero para mis hijos es que ellos sean unos profesionales, se preparen, coronen su carrera y sean unos hijos de bien, que ellos terminen su carrera y vivan mejor y salgan de este barrio a lo mejor.
In my future, I want to be a doctor, study medicine.
I'm so full of compassion and love, and I'm going to take that back with me when I go back home. And Hand in Hand has me for whatever they want to use me for, because it has changed my life. And I want to continue to make a difference and to help these kids in whatever way that I can.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kate and Barb, for asking me to say a few words this morning. It's a pleasure for me to do so. I went to Nicaragua earlier this year in June with a really wonderful group of mothers and sons, lifelong friends and classmates from the Halifax Grammar School. They are now all in their grade 12 year. All in all, we were 6 mothers and 7 sons. If you're good at math, there were a set of twins among us. It was my first trip, excuse me, to Nicaragua and Managua, and I believe the same for all of us. We were so graciously hosted by Ed and Barb, and they took care of us. very well. Managua is a huge, sprawling, congested city, the largest in Nicaragua, 1.2 million people of the country's 5.5 million. Nicaragua is the second poorest country in Latin America next to Haiti. Half of the population lives in poverty. 3/4 live on less than $2 a day. We were in Managua for a week, and in that time, our primary work through Pathway was to assist in building a cinder block house for a beautiful young woman and her small extended family. Her name is Soledad. Still processing. As we drove through the chaotic traffic to our work site in the morning, poverty was evident everywhere we looked. Managua and its people have seen many economic challenges and natural disasters, as well as an 11-year civil war. These events continue to affect opportunities for growth and prosperity there. Housing, if people have a home at all, is pretty simple, consisting of basic, very small cinder block houses with corrugated metal roofs, some with electricity, some without. Most homes have several generations of a family living in a few small rooms. Under the direction of a small local professional work crew, and along with Soledad and members of her family, we were building one such house. So much of our day was spent carrying and mixing cement, placing cinder blocks, making rebar, a whole new skill set for most of us. We had the opportunity to do some other things. We visited the bright and welcoming Pathway Children's Center, and there we were able to connect with a number of the young students. We also visited these students and their families in their spare, modest, and incredibly proud homes. Our boys spent a number of afternoons connecting with the young boys in the program, giving a basketball clinic, playing sports, and just getting to know and having fun with these delightful Nicaraguan kids. Throughout the week, two thoughts or observations really resonated with me. First, of course, I already knew that we don't have to be face-to-face with poverty in the world to realize that it exists. We all know that so many people in the world face the day-to-day challenge of living in poverty. But it really is another thing to see and feel and touch it. The heat and intensity of the city, its pervasive hardship and need. It brings home the reality that much of our own good fortune is a lucky accident involving the place and time of our birth. But more than this, I was struck by the pride and human dignity of the people we met and the incredible love they show to each other in the face of extremely challenging circumstances. We saw strength and resilience and the way they place great value in their families and understand how important education is to their hopes for a better life for their children. On one of the afternoons, Barbara organized an excursion for a group of mothers and a group of young girls from the Pathway program. We visited one of the very rare upscale bookstores in the city so the girls could each select a book for the center's library. And they would be the first readers of the book. We went for a delicious coffee and treat in the adjacent bookstore. You can picture a bright and cheerful modern bookstore with shining new books and a lovely coffee shop. Certainly something at home we take for granted, and we probably do once or twice a week. Well, for these young girls, it was such an exceptional day. It could have been Christmas. They were so excited. As we sat in the coffee shop watching the girls laugh and having fun, taking so much pleasure in the books and in the experience, I think that this was the most heart-wrenching moment for me, and underscored the contrast between our lives of privilege and comfort and the reality of life for many, many people who live in less fortunate circumstances. We were witnesses to the work that Barb and Ed are doing in Nicaragua and its value. Despite language barriers, not an hour went by on our work site that Soledad did not express her heartfelt appreciation to us We learned a lot about the challenges and sadness of her life, but we also learned about her hope for the future, fueled by our help in the creation of her home. We saw the appreciation of the parents of the children involved in the Pathway program. Just like all of us who want the best for our children, they know the value of education, so they do too. And this work is giving them hope for their future. Just before we went to Nicaragua, I happened to read Viktor Frankl's memoir, Man's Search for Meaning. Perhaps many of you have read it as well. Frankl was a psychiatrist, and in the book he recounts his harrowing experience in Auschwitz. He drew some conclusions about what gives life meaning, and he concluded that two things, hope and love, are essential to have a life of any consequence. That message resonated with me time and time again during our week there. I want to thank Barbara and Ed Dunsworth for hosting our group in Managua. Barbara and Ed are the real deal. They know about hope and love and about what gives life meaning. It was a privilege to be involved, even in a small way, in their important work. Thank you very much.
Good morning. It's great to be back in Halifax, especially on this beautiful day. My name is Barbara Dunsworth, and as Trudy mentioned, my husband Ed and I left Nova Scotia almost 19 years ago, almost 20, I guess you could say, with 3 of our 4 kids, then 7, 10, and 15 years old. Kate was 18 and was already in university, so she was not along for the ride, but she has been with us every step of the way in spirit and supported us in untold ways, much as many of you here today have. If not for the overwhelming support that you have shown us over the years, we would not today be celebrating the success in the lives of many of the children we have been so fortunate to have accompanied these past 11 years. You know, I said this last year, and I want to say it again. A simple donation is not just a donation. There's a ripple effect that happens, and it can't be measured in dollars and cents. It's not a mathematical equation. It's a spiritual equation that can only be measured in lives we have touched. This morning, I would just like to tell you about a few of those young lives. After 11 years, we are really beginning to see some of the fruit of our labor. Okay, and I'll see if I can work. Oh, there he is. There's Mauro. If you saw some of Patricia's slides, Mauro was noticeable in many of them. This was during the trip from the grammar school. Mauro, who Trudy mentioned earlier, is one of the first 3 kids we started the program with in 2006. Hard to believe, but he will be graduating from high school in just a couple of weeks. He's been given the incredible opportunity to go to the U.S. for 6 months on a special student visa. All because a physician friend of ours asked us last January if this might be possible. She did all the work on her end, lining up the school, and we did all the work on ours to apply for the visa, and he got it. So he will go and repeat the last semester of grade 11 in an American high school for the sole purpose of polishing his English and learning about another way of life. He will be living with the physician and her husband, who are a couple in their late 50s, and through them and going to school, he will learn a lot, not just about English, but about hard work, accountability, and responsibility taking. Hands down, it's just an incredible opportunity for him, and we're so excited, and of course, he's over the moon. I'm going to go to another picture here. You might recognize that guy in the orange shirt, Tim McNamara. We're so excited about this opportunity for him. The school he is going to be attending is a private Christian school, and Pathway to Progress Nicaragua is making that possible by picking up a substantial portion of the tuition cost. Jennifer. I talk a lot about Jennifer. I love Jennifer. I love them all. Jennifer is just such a great example of how a very little bit of a push can go a long way. She is now 16 and has been with us since she was 7 years old. As she grew up and took part in various art activities at our Children's Center, it became apparent that she had a gift for drawing. About a year and a half ago, this is where the little push comes in, we got her into some very good art classes at a local cultural center, and she has never looked back. Oh, there we go. Look at some of the things she's painting. She comes from a very poor home, and she tells me that when she paints, she feels so happy and free. Who has opened this door for Jennifer, paying for her art classes and her painting supplies, enabling her to develop the talent she has? Pathway to Progress. Okay, Priscilla. Where is Priscilla? Here she is. Look at that smile. It's a brave one, but one I see every day. Priscilla has many struggles in her family life. Her mom left the family a couple of years ago, and her father recently left for Panama in search of work. She's living in her grandmother's home and pretty much raising herself and her two younger sisters on her own. School has been a struggle for her this year, but she is struggling. She has not given up. Despite the fact that this year has been especially tough for her, Priscilla did not throw in the towel. Instead, she decided to join the dance team at her school. Her talent was quickly noticed, and she was invited to join a special group of dancers training for a cultural event in Guatemala, sponsored by the Association of Jesuit Schools of Central America. She was so excited. The opportunity could not have come at a better time in her life. But could she do it, she asked us? Yes, we said, go for it. She trained very hard for the event for 6 months, and then in September, she boarded a plane with her teachers and about a dozen other students bound for Guatemala. The reason she was able to say yes and run with it was because of Pathway to Progress. Now you see her dancing. Although only one of the 89 kids in the program could come to the breakfast this year, all of the kids are here in this room through the artwork they made for the tables. This was such a fun project, and aren't they beautiful? The little cards on your tables? Inside each card is a note of thanks from each child, and they are there for you to enjoy and take home. Now, I want to introduce you to Scarlett. Scarlett's mother was in the video, as was her sister, Aurelis, the girl who is about to graduate from college this year. That video was made a couple years ago, and is going to be starting law school in February. Scarlett is a very accomplished person in her own right. She comes from a loving and very supportive family, as you saw. Her mom, Esmelda, here with her, has only a 6th grade education, but she is one of the wisest mothers I know. Scarlett has been in the program since she was 6 years old, and it has been a real privilege and pleasure for us to know Scarlett and her family. So, please welcome Scarlett Maria Umaña Perez.
Buenos días, good morning. My name is Scarlett Maria Umaña Perez. I am 14 years old and I live in Managua, Nicaragua. This is my first visit to Canada and my first time out of Nicaragua. And I'm so happy to be here today with you. Nicaragua is a poor country, but it is not a sad place. It is rich in natural beauty and warm, loving people who have a fighting spirit despite the many challenges they face. I am proud to be Nicaragua. Public schools in Nicaragua are not particularly notorious for their quality of education because they lack resources. They usually employ teachers that are not well trained or that do not have the same teaching ability as teachers at private schools. They also have huge class sizes, making control of a classroom impossible. Very few students graduating from public schools end up going to college. Many young people would like to escape the cycle of poverty, but when they realize that without a good education they cannot become professionals, they get desperate and begin to earn money in whatever way possible. People end up in a very basic job or no job at all, and many are tempted to a life of crime. These people have been robbed of the opportunity to dream. In my neighborhood, there is a young couple, Jose, 22, and Luisa, 18, not their real names. They live close to my family. Jose lost his father when he was 8 years old, and when he was only 16 years old, his mother abandoned him, leaving him with the responsibility of also raising his 10-year-old sister. Jose quit school in order to support himself and his sister. At such a young age, Jose and Luisa already have 2 children and are not married. Their lives have become severely impacted by their situation. She goes out into the street and sells sweets, and Jose sells drugs and robs people. Today, the reality in my neighborhood and hundreds of other neighborhoods like it in Nicaragua is to see 13-year-old girls pregnant, who eventually become single mothers. Many adolescents don't have the support that they need in their lives and find themselves vulnerable. They are not able to develop self-esteem or feel like maybe they don't fit in. They feel pressure into making bad decisions in their lives. Many end up fleeing their homes because they feel they are not important to their parents or feel emotionally abandoned. Because of the Pathway program, I have been given the opportunity to study at Loyola Institute, a Jesuit school that has an excellent curriculum and teachers that are truly invested in my future. They made me feel worthy and loved. To have the privilege of getting a good education like I received at Loyola makes me feel extremely grateful. I learn things that are important and that will help me in the future when I go to college. One of my favorite activities is reading because I love being able to connect with the characters and learn lessons from the book. My favorite subject is math because it comes easy to me. I have a way with numbers and I can understand an equation quickly. I would like to go to college and to be a forensic scientist, and after that, start an organization dedicated to rescuing street dogs. I would also like to create a retirement home because in my country, I see many badly treated senior citizens. I see all these problems in my society, and I want to become part of the solution. I want to help people and be a good example for future generations. I want to be remembered as a strong person, capable of making my dreams a reality. If I did not have this scholarship, I could very well be in the same situation as other girls in my community, be surrounded by bad influences that I see every day on the street, or have parents that are not aware of what is going on in my life. I might have abandoned my studies, or maybe even have abandoned my home. Despite the fact that I just finished grade 9, I dream of being a professional, and that is an opportunity that few people in my country have. To give you an idea of my daily life, my days can be very active. Every second of my life, I try to live to the fullest, whether it's with studies or hanging out with friends. I wake up at 6:45 each morning and help clean my home. Then I go to tutoring at our children's center, where I review math, chemistry, physics, and English. Wednesdays and Fridays, I have track and field practice, where I throw javelin, discus, and shot put. I can throw a javelin 30 meters. The rest of my time, I usually do homework or work on different school projects. I have classes from 1 to 6 in the afternoon. Then I return to my house to feed my 3 dogs, Minnie, Dakota, and Canelo. Later, I eat dinner, watch television, spend family time, and start on homework until I get tired. I love reading before I go to bed because it helps me to relax and it is a great way to end a busy day. My family and I have received many benefits from the Pathway program over the years. It helped in the construction of my home. It gave an opportunity for a better education to my older sister, Arelis, and my brother, Elton. The Pathway program has not only given me the chance at a better education, but provided me with a place where I can form good values and cultivate my desire to go forward and achieve my dreams. I cannot finish without giving thanks to God for giving me the opportunity to receive this scholarship. I also want to acknowledge my family for all the support they have given me throughout the years, to my friends who have been there for me in the good times and the bad, to all my teachers, and especially to Miss Barbara and Mr. Edward for always being there for me. A very special thanks to my sponsors, Jane and Bill Leahy, who are here today and have been my sponsors for many years. And finally, thanks to the board members of Pathway to Progress and all of the sponsors and donors and volunteers who support us students day to day and empower us to make our dreams a reality. We know that you help us not only with great effort, but most importantly, with love in your heart. Thank you.
Wow, talk about a hard act to follow. You know, Scarlett's an impressive young lady, but I think she really is representative of the potential of just about all the 90 or so kids in the program down there. And if you take away one main point from Scarlett's inspiring testimonial, is that your support is making a real impact on real people like her and their families. My name is Greg Akins, and we realize that there's no shortage of really good charities out there vying for your attention. So we really are very thankful that you've chosen to be with us here this morning to celebrate and to get to know us a little better. Pathway to Progress is a charity founded upon the principles of Christian social justice. But what does that actually mean? For me, working with the charity over the last 8 years or so, I've come to realize that in this context, it means two things. First of all, the charity is not a Band-Aid solution to fix a child poverty problem. It's a holistic approach to serving one's neighbor with love that focuses not just on the children's education, but takes an interest in the development as a whole person, as you saw from the art programs, the artwork you have before you, and also focuses on their spiritual development as well. And it focuses on their families and improving the housing situation down there. Patricia talked about the cinder block houses, but those houses are the good houses that we go down there to build. You saw in the pictures in the slideshow just now what the housing situation looks like for many of them. It's a mud floor with a leaky tin roof of recycled materials. And so when they face the torrential rains they have down there, they're essentially camping in the rain in these small little homes, and that's pretty grim. Secondly, Christian social justice means that we don't see them as the poor others of the world, but as our very brothers and sisters who, by an accident of birth and through a brutal economic system that we Canadians benefit from, have a dramatically different reality than ours. The bottom line is that the Charities Foundation is love, not social responsibility. And I got to say, from the genuine love that I felt down there, many trips over the past few years, that I finally came to understand what the great Catholic philosopher Jean Vanier meant when he said, "It's the poor that bless us." Because I realized that through their love, faith, and joy, they really actually have more to offer us than we do to them. But of course, we don't all have the opportunity to travel down the slums of Managua. So Pathway to Progress offers each of us an opportunity to transform a young life. And through that process, perhaps to touch something deep inside of ourselves as well. This is an opportunity to fundamentally change the trajectory of a young life from one spent eking out a living on a garbage dump, becoming a drug dealer, or an abandoned child mother, to a trajectory of a young adult, an educated young adult, able to realize their full potential and to break that cycle of poverty one family at a time. You probably came here this morning because a friend invited you, or perhaps you're already somewhat familiar with our charity. But now that you've heard the full Pathway story and you've heard from Scarlett and the others, it's my great privilege to ask you to support our ongoing success. With all the unpleasant stuff going on around the world, sometimes we get this sense of hopelessness and helplessness, but here's a way to make a difference. I'd like to ask you to become our partners in hope and walk alongside these children by entering into a commitment to make a really important investment in the future of a child in Nicaragua. I was riding on a bus this past spring with a couple of young children in the program, Rosa and Ana Lucia, and I was trying to make small talk with my limited Spanish. And I knew that Ana Lucia had a Canadian sponsor, so I asked Rosa if her sponsor was also Canadian. And her sunny little face crumpled, and she looked up at me in sad eyes and said, "I don't have a sponsor." So even though we can't all go down there, I think that each of us has the ability in some measure to partner with kids like Rosa and to allow them to dream dreams like Canadian kids do and like Scarlett now does and the others. It's your opportunity to say, "Frankly, Scarlett, I do give a damn." On that note, I'd now like to ask our table hosts to pass out the pledge cards. And as they do that, I'd just like to underline one point. Our primary focus this morning is on building a sustained relationship with you because of the very complex nature of this charity. And of course, once we've accepted a child into the program, we've made a long-term commitment to them and their families. And so our charity requires more stable long-term funding than an average charity. So I'll ask you to open up your cards there. And I've got the wrong thing with me. I brought up the breakfast program. You already know what we're having for breakfast, so I'll read you this instead. So the first one is the gift of hope. So ideally, you'll become one of our sponsors through a half sponsorship, a full sponsorship, or step up to the ultimate gift. But perhaps you're already a sponsor or contributing financially, and you'd like to change that contribution or extend the contribution in terms of the years. And so the second block is there for you to do that. In number 2 there, of course, we all have time, talent, and treasure that we can contribute. And so there's different ways that we can contribute here. I'd like to especially underline the 4th box there, which talks about our mission trips to Nicaragua. And if you're interested in finding more about that, you can speak to me afterwards. I'll be going down with a group in late March, and there's still a few open places. And finally, there's your payment options there, ideally by online email or check, so that it lowers the costs to us. And finally, we're asking for your personal information so that we can stay in touch with you. I just want to underline that we absolutely do not share this information outside of this charity for any reason whatsoever. It's just internal so we can stay in touch with you and share the happy news through these newsletters that I think, are they monthly? Quarterly newsletters that have great stories from down south. So go ahead and take some time to fill out those cards. And so as you're doing that, I'd just like to thank our sponsors. Once again, it's McInnes Cooper, Deloitte, RBC Merchant Moffat, Freeman, Audiovisual, John Dunsworth, William Leahy, the Western Nova Scotia, and of course, all the young students who you see around the room who were on a trip this past spring building a home with their teacher, Crystal, who's also in the room. So I'd like to thank them for coming out and supporting us. And again, thank you so much for being with us this morning, and have a great day. Please pass your cards into your table hosts, and they'll gather them up.